Welcome to this week's episode of Cooking Your Roots. We're going to be covering a family favorite, chip dip. Now there are many different kinds of chip dip out there, but for it to be a true Wiggins Chip Dip, it needs two ingredients, pickles and cream cheese. This is a very versatile recipe that each and every one of my siblings does differently, and the recipe from my grandma is different from the recipe from my mother, different from my own. But those two ingredients are the core staples. If you change one of those out, it's just not Wiggins Chip Dip. Sorry, Bethany. I know jalapenos are delicious, but just doesn't cut it. For this first video, we are going to make my great-grandma C's original recipe called spicy chip dip. Now I say original, but we're not even sure if this is the first recipe in the family or how long our family has been making this kind of chip dip. But it's the oldest one that I could find. She called it spicy chip dip, and it's based on the spices that she put into it. We need our 8 ounces of cream cheese and 2 large dill pickles. In her recipe, she says you can also use sweet pickles, which my dad would applaud. I personally think that dill is the way to go. We also need a tablespoon of pickle juice and a half a teaspoon of chili powder. Now I apparently didn't have any normal chili powder, but I have this chili powder from India. It's a red chili powder, and it is a little bit more spicy than the original, and so it makes a really good spicy chip dip. You could just use regular chili powder that we find here in the States. A half a teaspoon of celery salt, 6 drops of Tabasco sauce, and a whole lot of love. First thing we need to do is chop our pickles, and the recipe just calls to mix all of these things together. I have found in my many years of experience that the order you add them together is important. You can whip your cream cheese to make it more airy. You can add something like sour cream or milk to make it creamier and a consistency that is a lot thinner. But I'd argue the very first thing you need to do is mix that cream cheese and that pickle juice together and get the right consistency and the right flavor to it. Then after adding everything else, you mix it all together and it is good to go. Dip a chip in and have some fun. This ended up being a little bit thicker than the kind I prefer, but still has a good spicy flavor. Next week I'll be tackling my own version, which has a lot more of a robust, rounded out flavor of spices, and we'll talk about some of the easy ways that we can change this up to make it your personal favorite while still being Wiggins Chip Dip. See you next time, and go on cooking your roots.